With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Yud Gimel. Shabbos Daf Yud Gimel begins referring back to the Mishnah on Daf Yud Aleph that teaches us that a Zav and a Zava may not eat at the same table at the same time. And this will lead us into various harchakos that Chazal placed in order for us not to violate a biblical law. We're going to be learning again the halacha of the concept of lo yigazrinon gzeira legzeira, that normally we don't place a fence to protect us from violating only a rabbinic law. However, there are certain times and there are certain opinions that view a gzeira as one large extended gzeira, as we'll speak out. In other words, there are some times that you can argue, don't make a gezeira to a gezeira, or you can say that lechatchila, the first gezeira covered a very extensive and broad setting or scenario, as we'll explain. We're going to have, to the understanding of Rashi, a huge machloikis between Rav Yosef and Rebbe Pedas. How are we to understand the isur midoraisa of lo ysikrevu legal lo erva? In other words, that we cannot come even near to Gilui Aroyos, according to Rashi's understanding in Rabbi Yosef, that this is a Isur Midoiraisa. In other words, Midoiraisa, a man and a woman may not even have any physical contact of Chiba. That's an Isur Doiraisa, and according to Rabbi Pedas, that's an Isur, but an Isur Midrabanan. Midoiraisa, the Isur is only not to do the act of cohabitation. We're going to have a Gavaldic story that's recorded in a Tanach Elyahu, a story that happened with Elyahu Navi. And we're going to be learning about other harchakos that have to exist between a man and his wife, which go up until when the wife goes to the mikvah, even after the actual flow stopped. On Daf Yud Gimel Amid Beis, we're going to start a very famous Mishnah. The Mishnah tells us rules that were resolved in the attic by Aliyah's Hananiah ben Chizkiah ben Gorein. Hananiah ben Chizkiah ben Gorein decided that being that there are certain statements in the Sefer of Yecheskel that appear to be contradicting the Taryag mitzvahs, so many people wanted to do geniza to the entire Sefer Yecheskel. They wanted to hide it, and in order for him, he felt that in order for it not to be hidden, and he succeeded. And indeed, Yecheskel is one of the Chav Dalet Sifrei Kodesh. It's in the canon, it's in the Tanach. He went there and he secluded himself, and he got a tremendous amount of oil to have fire to stay there as long as he needs to resolve all of the potential or external contradictions. And while he was there, great Chachmei Yisrael went to visit him. And during one such visit, there were all of the greatest Chachamim of the generation were there, and they closed the doors and they decided, let's take a vote regarding various halachas. From that sitting came out what is known as the Shmoina Asar Davar. There are 18 halachas. These are halachas in which, being that then at that moment there were more people that belonged to the school of Beishamai than to Beis Hillel, so generally these are chumra dika halachas. We're going to learn more about the greatness of this Hananiah ben Chizkiah. He was the one that recorded Megillas Tainis. And we're going to start, at least on this daf, quoting a Mishnah in Zavin. The Mishnah in Zavin will give us 10 cases where a person or a person's hands has the status of a sheni latuma. We're going to give a good intro, God willing, when we get there, to a general overview to various basic fundamentals of dinim of tuma and tara. And again, there's going to be 10 rabbinic times that someone will have the status of a sheni, thus giving him the power to convey tuma to truma, rendering the truma puzzle. Okay, with that, let us start on Daf Yud Gimel Amid Aleph. We left off 5 lines from the top of the Amid all the way at the middle of the line by the 2 dots. Again, we are referring back to the Mishnah on Daf Yud Aleph. The last din that we had in the Mishnah on Daf Yud Aleph, right after we were speaking about certain gezeiros that Chazal placed for Shabbos. Can't carry a chayot, cannot carry his needle. Samach lechashecha. Right, when you're not allowed to read to the candlelight Friday night, Shema Yata. And then the Mishnah concluded, as we explained, that eating together creates an intimate atmosphere, and Chazal therefore did not allow, not even for a zav, to eat with a zav. Says the Gemara, Tanya, we learned in a Brais. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, come and see at Heichon parts of Yisrael, how great is the observance of the laws of purity amongst the Jewish people. This is a compliment The Mishnah did not write that if the husband is tahor, that he may not eat a meal with his wife at the same time, at the same table with his wife who's a nidam. That's not written. Why is that written? Not written because there is no such gezerah then. Ella, because being that people mamish kept the dinim of tum and taram, a person who was tahor did not want to become tamei. Person who was tahor did not want to eat foods that are tamei, even though me'ikar adin, a Yisrael may eat foods that are tamei. Truth be told, even a kohen is allowed to eat foods that are tamei, even though that will render them midrabanan tamei as well, but you're not mechuyev to remain in your state of tahara. And I'm speaking this even on a kohen, just not to confuse. A kohen is not allowed to become tamei lomeis. That's a isur d'oraisa. But if his source of tumah is not coming from a corpse tumah, then he doesn't have to stay in a status of tahara. However, the Yidden during the times of the second temple, they were very stringent, and that's a compliment. And they took upon themselves to remain in a state of tahara and to treat their food at least as if it is tahar. And therefore, being that a Yisrael that's tahor anyways would not eat at the same table with his wife who's tameya, not wanting to become tamei, there was no takana made for them not to eat together. And that's why Ella lo yochel hazav im azava. So azav is tamei anyways. So here, the problem of him not becoming tamei does not exist. So on that, Chazal said that if the wife is a zava, they may not eat together at the same table, at the same time. Now, parenthetically and halachically, there is a way to circumvent that, and that is by placing something on the table as a heket, as a reminder, something that's ordinarily not placed there, something that has a certain amount of height, but the Mishnah is not going into that. We're speaking about stam, to sit and eat at the same table without anything placed in between them. That's the isur midrabanan, mipnei hergel aveda. Now, just to go back, when we learned the Mishnah, we spoke out to Rashi. Rashi wrote the kolchchein, right? Rashi wrote the kolchchein tahor. That's because Rashi was written at a time that anyways everyone was tamei. There was no point in trying to do something to stay in the status of tahara. We were tamei anyways. So kolchchein, that a person, if a zav, and as we explained in the Mishnah, that a zav is someone who having a physical relation is painful. And nevertheless, to prevent this from happening, you're not allowed to eat together at the same time. So kolchchein, a person who doesn't have any pain with the physical act of intimacy, certainly is included in this gezerah. Now the Braisa goes weiter. Kayoytze boy lo yochel zav parush im zav am haaretz. A zav who's a parush, that means a zav who is scrupulous. That means he's very careful in keeping all of the dinim in the Torah. He should not get into the habit of eating together with a zav who is an amaretz, even though right now they're both tamei. But shema yar yelenu etzla. If they'll get into that habit, then even when the parush won't be a zav, when the parush will be tahar, he still might invite the zav to join him, and we don't want that. We don't want for that to happen. And the Gemara asks why. And what will happen? What of it? Says the Gemara, he might give him, because when he started, he might give him foods that are tamei. Hold on. The zav, right, even though he's a parush, when he's in the status of a zav, he's anyways eating tamei dika food. So Amar Abaye gzeira shema yachilenu dvarim she'ena mesukanim. Tum and tara, a zav is a tamei person anyways, so he eats foods that are tamei. There's no worry about that. But since we also made this takana, that people that are in the category of amaratzim demai, that their produce is rabbinically considered non-tithed, and eating that is an isur midrabanan. So here, this is the way Abaye is understanding pshat in the Braisa. We made a gzeira, don't even eat together, because if you eat together, then the amaretz might give the zav, right, the mai. So on this says Rava, no, that can't be the meaning of the Braisa, right? Because we don't make a gzeira ligzeira. Reiv ami haaretz ma'asrim. The problem with their produce is only midrabanan. So we're not going to say that there is another that Abanan don't even eat together in order for him not to feed him demai. That's mamash gzeira ligzeira. Now Abaye doesn't view this as gzeira ligzeira, because Abaye understands that when Chazal said that foods, the produce of a Yamaretz, is viewed as demai, what is this? And we have to view it as some of it is untithed. That already in that gzeira they included an extension of it And that is that people that are Purushim should not eat together with Amaratzim. It was part of that same one Gezerah. But anyways, Rava doesn't hold like that. Ella, therefore, Rava learns different shot in the Braisa. Ella, Shema Yehei Ragel Etzlo. If they're going to get habituated eating together, then later when the Zav will become Tahar, then the Amaretz is still going to join with him, and the Amaretz might bring foods that are Tamei. And as again, Noch will learn at the end of Daf Yud Gimel, Midirabanan, when someone who's tahar eats a certain amount of Tamei Dika food, they themselves become Tamei, and people then are parush by definition of someone who, beyond the letter of the law, is behaving in a way that he is abstaining himself, he's preventing himself from becoming Tamei. Good. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'ar kol b'dvarim. Now we're going to go back to this harchaka that the Mishnah gave of a man and his wife, while she is today, we will call her in a state of a nida, that they may not eat together at the same time, at the same table. They asked in the yeshiva, nida ma'ushetishin ba'ila meya nida, sleep in the same bed with her husband when he bebigda, she is wearing her garments, v'hu bebigda, and he's wearing his garments. Now, just to know that then, in the times of Chazal, the usual way of going to sleep was completely ungarbed under a blanket. Both of them wearing clothing is doing something that's unusual. And maybe that's enough for there to be a reminder that it's the time where she's Tameya, and they may sleep in the same bed. So, Amar Rabbi Yosef, Tashuma, come in here. It says in the Mishnah. We learned this in Chulin. Ha'oif oila'im hagivina ala shulchan. That just to know that midai raisa, the isur of basa b'chalav, is cooking meat and milk. Midrabanan, it's say you may not mix them and eat them even uncooked. Furthermore, there's a midrabanan that you may not even eat fowl together with milk, chicken together with milk. However, the Mishnah says, Beishama is lenient, and he says that, but you can have both fleishiks, meaning chicken fleishiks, ha'oif, with cheese on the table. However, even though they may not be eaten together by the same person, but having them on the table at the same time, according to Beis Shammai, is not a problem. Again, because even if one were to eat, God forbid, fowl and milk, he would only be violating an isur midrabanan. And we don't make a gzeira l'gzeira by saying you can't even have it on the table together when you have a meal, even though you're only going to eat either one or only the other. However, Beis Hillel here is the machmir, and they say no, loy oila and avade v'loy nachal. Okay, so what do we see over here? L'chura, that just like Beis Hillel holds that gevina in basan may not be placed on the table together when you're having a meal, even though we don't say gzeira l'gzeira, this is the shita of Beis Hillel to prevent someone from inadvertently eating them together. Oh, I can say for sure, when it comes to a man and his wife, say there's a bigger yetzer hara there, for sure one may not sleep together. Says the Gemara, no. Maybe not. Shani Hasam, the lekadeyos. There, Beis Hillel is machmer because there's one person sitting at the table. There was no other person there reminding him, inspiring him, you can't have chicken with milk. But over here, being that you have two people, a man and his wife, it's two people, look how positively we are looking at two people. One will inspire the other to abstain from sin. And furthermore, hachinamim mistabra that we think this way. And therefore, this Mishnah in Chulin is not the proof to this boyim. Right, so Rav Yosef now doesn't have an answer because the heicha the ikadei shani, because since it says in the sefer of a Mishnah there in Chulin that Rashba goimer shnei achnesoyim, that if you have two guests they are allowed to eat on the same table at the same time, even though one is eating meat and one is eating cheese. Ve'ein chayshishin. Right, so isn't that a proof that in here it's meat? The proof is that with 2 days we're more lenient. So therefore, it doesn't prove anything benegeya the boya. Counters the Gemara, not true. When does Rashbag allow two people eating one milchiks, one fleishiks at the same time from the same table when they don't know each other? So therefore, one won't eat from the food of the other. There isn't such a fear because they're the strangers. Avol makirim ze'ezeh asur. So hilachayra v'hachinami faket, bring a raya from over there that since makirim zeh, therefore the husband and the wife know each other, it should be asur. That should be a proof that it's prohibited. Says the Gemara, no. Over there, by meat and milk, two people that know each other, true, there are two people, which is helpful. One prevents the other from sinning, one inspires the other not to sin, but shinui leka, there's no deviation. The meat and the milk are on the table the way they always are on the table. But over here, not only ikadeyas, but also ikashinoi, the fact that they are both going to be, that was the question, maybe they both should be allowed to sleep in the same bed at the same time while they're both garbed. That's a shinui, that's a deviation. That is an additional help to remind people we may not be together. So therefore we're back to the question. Ikad Amri, another version that Tashima, Rabbi Yosef initially answered, fakert from the Mishnah, from the Sefer, from Rashba Goimer, Shnei Achnesoi Moichlam Ala Shulchan Echad Zabasav Zegevina, and Ve'itmen Allah, Amar Rab Chanan Bar Ami, Amar Shmuel. All this is Rabbi Yosef is bringing it. Loishanu Elo Shem Akedim Zed Zeh, Aval Akedim Zed Asur. So therefore Rabbi Yosef concluded, Vahani, since the husband and the wife are Makedim Zed Zeh Ninu, therefore it should be Asur. And then they told Rabbi Yosef, you don't have a proof. Because Hassan, as we just mentioned, Take, Deyois, Ike, but Shinui Leka, which is why it's Asur. But over here, Ike Deyois, but they're both garbed, Ike Shinui. So maybe it's permitted. We don't know from the Mishnah to prove anything. So another attempted proof from Rabbi Yosef, Tashima, from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says, Lo Yochal Azovim Azovim Mishum Hergel Aveidam. Clearly, now they can't eat together, their husband and wife. 2 days. So for sure, again, the Yetzer Hara of being intimate is greater. Then for sure they should not be allowed to sleep in the same bed at the same time. Again, the Gemara says no proof. Hachinami deyasika. In the Mishnah, they may not eat together. We're speaking about shinui leka. There's no difference. There's nothing unusual on the table. Adarabah, that's taka da halacha. That if they do something that's unusual, like we mentioned, that's what we do today. We place something on the table between the man and the wife. Fakir, that shinui is enough to allow them to eat at the same table at the same time. So we're back at least to Abaya. So Tashema, finally Rabbi Yosef brings a conclusive proof. It says a pasuk in Yecheskel regarding Rashi says at Tzaddik that El Heharim loy achal. Someone who does not need to rely on his parnasa from the mountains, meaning from schus aves. Means when you have a tzaddik, and we're describing the greatness of this person, he doesn't need to rely on schus aves. El gelule beis Yisrael, a person whose eyes he does not lift to the idols of the house of Israel. And again, a tzaddik that what ves eshes re'eyu leitimei, he never contaminated the wife of his fellow. And ve'el isha nida lo yikrav, and he never came even near to his own wife while she's a nida, or to any woman while she's a nida. So now stops the Gemara, and we analyze the pasuk that the Torah is makish. The Torah juxtaposes makish isha nida le'eshes re'eyu. Ma eshes re'eyu, even if he's with his garments, she's with her garments, they're never allowed to sleep in the bed together. Rashi says it's an isur deoraisa connected to yichud. Afish nida hu bevigdoi v'hi bevigda asur. And indeed, from this smichus, from this juxtaposition, shema mina, that even if they're wearing clothing, they may not sleep together. And the way Rashi learns pshat in the conclusion of Rabbi Yosef, that this is a isur deoraisa, because Rabbi Yosef holds that when the Torah speaks about aroyos, and the Torah uses various times the expression lo sikrevu, don't even get near, that's an isur deoraisa. There's not only a prohibition of gilui aroyos, of the uncovering of the nakedness, which means an actual act of cohabitation, but other activities of closeness between a man and a woman, if she's not his wife, if he's not her husband at a time that they are allowed to be together, is asur midoiraisa, including chibuk, including nishuk, including them sleeping in the same bed at the same time, even if they're both wearing garments. And on that, upliga de Rav Pedas, the way Rashi learns, and Rav Yosef argues with Rabbi Pedas, who will also hold it's asur, but an isur midrabanan, and there's many consequences. Halachically, Pasha, there's not time now to speak out, but we'll have plenty of time to learn through these dinim of the nafkemina, whether some of the harchakos are midoiraisa, or they are all only midrabanan. Okay, whenever the Torah uses the words leisikrevu, don't draw close, don't draw near, it means the act of intimacy. Shenamar, as it says, a pasuk in Achrei Mois, that ish el kol she'er b'sarai, a man to any one of his close relatives, loy sikrivu legal lois erva. And in this verse we mean what? According to Rav Pedas, we mean actual intimacy, and therefore the isur, coming back to arboya, of a man and a wife not sleeping in the bed together, right? Either is an isur midrabanan, or maybe not even an isur midrabanan, asur as a harchakam, not even an isur midrabanan, because even if they were to have chibuk and nishuk, that would be an isur d'oraisa, and this is already one step further removed. Okay. Says the Gemara Vayt, Ula kihavi asim beira. When Ula would come back from the study hall, from yeshiva, after not seeing his family for a while, he would kiss his sisters, either abei chadayu, v'omri la abei yodayu. He would kiss them in various parts of their bodies. In other words, let's go back. According to Rabbi Yosef, that would be an isur d'oraisa. According to Rav Pedas, a sister, right? She's an erva, she's a close relative. The isur of d'oraisa is the act of intimacy, but midrabanan, that would be asur. And here Ula kissed them. He kissed them on their hands, or kissed them al bechadayu. So the Gemara just makes a point that you should know that Ula, pliga didei adidei, Ula actually disagreed with his own statement. Ta'amar Ula said that afilu shum kurva asur, that any type of closeness between a man and a woman who's not his wife during the time that they're mutter to be together is asur. And it's asur mishum, that was the expression of Ula, takanare isur d'oraisa, but mishum leich amri l'nazira. If a person is a nazir, so what do we tell him? We tell him, go away, schor, go around to a kerem, go around the vineyard. 1 second, midoiraisa, a nazir may not partake of any grape product, true, but midoiraisa, he's allowed to walk through a vineyard, still, we tell him, go around it, don't even go near it. That loy sikrav. In other words, and that is the same concept that Ula really holds, that when it comes to any of the aroyos, not only obviously may we not be together, but there are certain steps, right, even if we're not going to go l'Rashi, l'Rab Yosef, that it's d'oraisa, but midrabanan, to stay away, we make a harchaka. However, Ula himself behaved otherwise with his sisters. So Tosfos writes in the bottom of the Amid, upliga didei adidei, that v'hu haya yodeya ba'atzmai shelo yavi l'deya hirur. The Gemara doesn't have to speak it out. Ula knew regarding his sister, it was b'chlal not shayich. Why should tzadik gamur haya? Not the way we think it's not shayich, because Ula was a tzadik gamur, as it's written in the second perek of Ksubis. Right, another story he brings that when people, Ketzad Menaktim Lifnei Hakala, so Rav Ada used to sometimes put a kala on his shoulders and dance with her. And the Chachamim told him, how are we allowed to do that? Lo sikrevu. So we told him that for me, ki kishura, it's like putting a beam on my shoulders. That means that he knew himself, he had no yetzer hara. He was the tzaddik of the Tanya. And ve'iloi, if you're bein and iloi, and then Tosfos says further, that the Gemara did not even have to speak it out. So when the Gemara says that he pliga didei adidei, it wasn't a kasha, it was just pointing out that normally for the vast majority of people that have the status of a beinani, this is, according to our sugya, asur. Okay. Tanach of Elyahu, right? That's the Gemara in Ksubis, Rav Anan recorded teachings of Elyahu Navi. And these braises are called Tanach of Elyahu. And there we have the following story recorded. That Ma'aseh b'Talmud Echo, the story with a student, Shoshana Harbei, that he learned a lot of Mishnahs. V'Kara Harbei, and he learned a lot of Tanach, a lot of scripture. And V'Shimish Talmidei Chachamim Harbei, and he served many Talmidei Chachamim. Interestingly, the Seder, first Mishnah, then Mikra, then Shimush. And nevertheless, tragically, he passed away in the half of his life, 35 years old. That's the half of a halachic life. Or whatever it was, he passed away very young. And and his wife took his tefillin, the Mefarshim speak out, she took his tefillin because long life is mentioned exclusively regarding the schos of wearing tefillin, aside of everything else. So she took his tefillin. And she went around to various shuls, to houses of prayer and to houses of study. And she challenged the Talmidim. She challenged the Chachamim. It says in the Holy Torah, and she was knowledgeable enough to quote what we have the last pasuk in Parshas Nitzavim. The Torah Taka writes many times a blessing and a promise of Arichus Yamim, but as we already learned many times together, maybe Arichus Yamim means Ba'olam Haba. But in the end of Nitzavim, where it says Ki hu chayecha v'orech yomecha, the next words in that pasuk is Lasheves al ha'adama. That the pshat there is that we are being blessed to have a physically long life. It says ba'olam hazeh. So she asked that Bali, my husband, Shoshana Mishnais he learned, Shoshana Harbe, V'kara Harbe and Tanach he learned. Turning to Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis, V'shimeish Talmidei Chachamim Harbe. He spent a lot of time serving Talmidei Chachamim. So mepnei ma meis b'chatzi yamav. Why did he pass halfway through his life? And v'lo yahaya adam machzira davar. No one knew what to answer her. Pamachas, one time, all of this is written in Tanach Dvei Elyahu. So this is, the me is Elyahu Navi. So nis arachti etzla, I was her guest. It means he went to visit her. And, okay, and she complained to him. She told him the whole story, what happened to her husband. So I asked her, Biti, my daughter, while you were in Nida, how did he behave with you? So she responded to me, Elyahu, chas v'shalom, that you're suspecting. He didn't even touch my pinky. But then he asked another question. Now let me just give a quick premise. We learned in Nida and in many other places, right? That nowadays, we're going to learn the Gemara, not the way Rashi learns, but the way many other Rishonim learned this Gemara, that nowadays, any time a woman becomes a Nida, she will also go through the stringencies of a woman who becomes a Torah Dika Zava, which means she would always have to count 7 clean days. In the times of Chazal, when she finished her flow, and more correctly, when the 7 days of Nidus were over, that means al pidinei Torah, she would go to the mikveh at night and she would be muteres l'bayla, even though they already took upon themselves to add shivas nekiyim, but they would go to the mikveh then. And they would go to the mikveh, and that would take away the tuma nida midoiraisa. And they would know that they're being machmir, it's a chumrah. And therefore, it's shaykh that certain people were relatively lenient during those 7 clean days. And that's the b'mei lebunech, during the clean days. Mahu etzlacha, how did he behave with you then? So she says that during those days, achalimi, he ate with me, v'shasa imi, he drank with me, and v'yashan imi bekiruv basar, we slept together, ungarbed. However, you should know, she's telling Elyahu Hanavi, but he didn't have in mind to do any act of intimacy. No, what she felt, as he felt, that was 100% okay. But when he heard that, even bisman that a woman went to the mikveh after the biblical days of Nida, once b'nais Yisrael echmiru al atzman, whether you went to the mikveh or not, all of the dinim of Nidus continue until when the woman finished counting the shivas nekiyim. All of them, including the harchakis, including all of the harchakis. And that avada includes sleeping in the same bed, bekiruv basar. Is that they touched each other, they were sleeping near each other. So the amarti law, I told this woman, very, very gevurah words, but let's understand that she also had gevurah words through which she initiated this conversation. Baruch hamokim shaharagay. Blessed is God Almighty, that's everywhere, that took his life. Shalei nasa panim latoira. The Sfasemis teaches because God did not show favoritism. Elyahu Navi told her, emes, that shana, v'kara, v'shimesh, but if he violated something, God did not show him favoritism and give him a pass. And he passed away. Shaharei amra Torah vel isha b'nidas tumasai loy sikrav. In other words, like Rashi writes, 4 lines from the top of the Amid, v'achatavi b'mayim l'tfila, is he b'nidasa, she remains in her full status of nida. D'marbinon mitehei b'nidasa b'havayasa tehei achatavi b'mayim. Okay. Ki yasid Avdimi couldn't accept that this Talmud Chacham would have such a behavior. That couldn't have been, even the way the Rishonim explained that it was after the days of Nidus and she went to the mikvah, still he wouldn't have done that, and she wouldn't have done that. He says it's not that they slept together b'kiruv basar, but this goes back to what we learned on Amud Aleph. It was b'mito chada havoi. They were in one bed. In other words, they dafke did not touch each other, which is why they thought it's permissible. And furthermore, that Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef sinor mafsik beinoi lebeino. Sinor is like knickers. It was some sort of undergarment that covered her body from the waist down. So fakir, there was a garb. So you have over here what we learned on Amud Aleph about the heker, about a shinui, and that's why they thought it's permissible. But Elyahu Navi told him that it was indeed not permissible. And taka, that's the halacha. Okay, Chavre, we're starting a Gavaldika Sugya. The truth is that this Sugya is going to go mamish for 4 daf. It's going to go until Yud Zayin Amud Beis. The Mishnah begins, Ve'elu min ha'halachai sha'amru ba'aliyas Hananya ben Chizkiya ben Gorain. That, and these are from the laws that was stated, that was decided about in the upper chamber and in the attic of Hananya ben Chizkiya ben Gorain. And now, and these, we'll speak about this in the Gemara. This is referring back to the Mishnah on Daf Yud Aleph, as we'll explain. But what? Sha'olu levakroi, that as we spoke out in the intro, and as the Gemara is going to speak here soon, that Hananya ben Chizkiya, who was a great man, he decided that he's going to explain all of the verses in Sefer Yecheskel that appeared to contradict the dinim and the Torah. And that was of that much importance, because had he not properly resolved all of these issues, then there was a time that we were thinking about hiding that sefer, and it would not have made it in Tanach. And therefore he needed to go to a quiet, secluded place. So he went to this Aliyah, right? He went into his upper chamber, and the great Chachamim every now and then came to visit him. And at one point, all of the great Chachamim of that generation were there all together, which was an anomaly. It was something unusual. And Nimru v'Rabu Beishamai Beis Hillel, and there was a moment that there were more Talmidim from Beishamai over Beis Hillel. And therefore they decided then, everyone together, that let's go over various questions to decide what the halachic ruling will be. And they took a vote. That's the Nimnu. And there were 18, the Shmoina Asar Davar, which are 18 chumras. Most of them are referring to laws of Tum and Tara, were paskind in a way more kishitas beishamai. V'yud ches devarim gozru boi bayim. Okay, so ve'elu ein min halachis means that some of the halachas that we already learned, as well as halachas we'll have later, are from, we're not going to go through all the 18, are from the 18 davar that was decided at that day, at that special day, ba'aliyas Hananya ben Chizkiya. So first of all, Amalei Abai Rabbi Yosef, when he learned the Mishnah, that is the correct girsa without avav elu tanan, not the way it's written in our Mishnah, or is the correct girsa oy ve'elu tanan, and the Gemara explains. Is it ve'elu tanan, Vav Moisev al Ian Rishoin, going back to the prior Mishnah? The prior Mishnah is recorded on Daf Yud Aleph. Hani de Amaran, from the laws that we had in the Mishnah above, is that one may not delouse a garment, one may not read properly a sefer or a book. Lo'oir Haner, as we spoke out, Shema Yate, was those part of the Shmoina Asra Davar, and that's what the Mishnah says, that what we learned above is some of what was decided there, oi or no. None of what was written above was from the 18. Eilu Tanan, referring to Be'inan Lamei MERCAVA. The next Mishnah will be on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis. And all of these 4 Daf, Yud Dalid, Tezvav, Tezayin, and Yud Zayin until Amud Beis is going to be going over through a lot of the Gemaras speaking about the Shmoina Asar Davar. But it's only referring to what the Mishnah is going to write on Daf Yud Zayin. What was learnt on Daf Yud Aleph was not from the Shmoina Asar. So which one is the right girsa? So Tashema, this is Rabbi Yosef responding to Abaye. It says in a Braisa, Ein Poilin Lo'er Haner. That's the Braisa we quoted above. Like we learned that Ein Poilin isn't a cross the board Isur. We're lenient. We could delouse a garment during the day. It's only a takana not to do it to candlelight, like ve'ein koren lo'er haner. And here in the Braisa it says clearly, ve'elu min ha'halachis she'amru, and these are from the 18 halachis that were said by Aliyah's Hananya ben Chizkiya ben Gorain shmamina, the way it's taka printed by us, ve'mitavav ve'elu tanan shmamina. And now we're going to give a little bit of background of the greatness of this Hananya. Says the Gemara Tanach Rabbanan, Mikos of Megillas Tainus. Who wrote Megillas Tainus? What's Megillas Tainus? Megillas Tainus, like Rashi here points out, is that even before we were allowed to record the Torah Shebaal Peh, this is in the middle of the times of the Bayesheni, way before Rabbeinu HaKadosh put down, and his generation put down the Mishnah and the Braisa and the Tosefta and the Midrash v'chulei. Nevertheless, there was one thing that they put down that wasn't part of Tanach, and that was a Megillah that recorded all of the calendar dates in which Hashem performed for the Jewish people what we will call a minor miracle, which elicits, so to say, a minor Yom Tov, not Purim, not Chanukah, but they are like minor Yom Tovim, days in which one may not fast, days in which one may not make a eulogy of someone who passed away and is being buried, v'chulei. And that Megillah, actually we don't have all of it nowadays. A lot of it was put together because the Gemara throughout Shas quotes from Megillas Tainus. At a certain time, not right after the Churban, but a few generations after the Churban, when many new tzaras came upon the Jewish people, they abolished Megillas Tainus aside of certain Yom Tovim that are mentioned there. And coming back, who was the one that wrote it down? Amru, they answered, that was Hananya ben Chizkiah. Visiyati, and people that were helping him. Why did they write it down? Because they loved tzaros. How do you understand that? It means that they loved to share the tzara that happened and the miracle that God performed that relieved us from the tzara. And this is the famous vart that it's not pshat that they only were celebrating the miracles, but they reached a level where they appreciated that it was dafke because of the challenge that the miracle came about. So they loved not only the miracle, but they loved everything that happened. Al derech, it says when Mashiach will come that we will tell God, Oitcha Hashem ki onaftabi. At the time of Mashiach, we're going to thank God for everything that happened, including those things that right now look like terrible calamities. Because everything mamish that happens is happening by Hashgacha Pratis. It's all from God and it's all for the good. Elamah, we don't see it now. But people that are machaviv the tzaris and the miracles, to the point that they're machaviv the tzaris because of the miracles, that was Hananya, and therefore they wrote down the Sefer. Amar Ashbag, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel lived 5 generations afterwards. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel was the 2nd generation after the Churban. We also have that madrega. What should we do? If we will put down all of the miracles that God performs nowadays, in His days, to the Jewish people, it will never be enough. We won't be able to celebrate them all. Many different ways of looking at it. We can look at it as a positive, that there was such persecution against the Jewish people. And the very fact that we still exist is because God did even so many more miracles to counter the various challenges to Jewish life and the Jewish community, that maybe He felt there's too many, every day will be a miracle, every day will be a Yom Tov. Certain shuls, no day you say Tachnun. But that's for those who have a minig, that when a tzaddik passes away, you don't say Tachnun. That's not minig Chabad. But here we're speaking about miracles. It can be that every day is a Yom Tov. Davar Achad, or he said, the reason why we don't write down a new Megillas Tainus is because ein shoita nivga, an imbecile doesn't get attacked. An imbecile doesn't get attacked. In other words, we are on a lower level. We are al derech hashoita, and we don't get attacked. Says Rashi over here, Koloimer, Rashi, ein loy makir b'figov. A shoita doesn't appreciate how many miracles are happening to them. So again, it's the same positive line, that now, dafka after the Churban, be'emes, there are even more miracles, but we don't appreciate it enough to celebrate it. Davar achar, another expression, what did Rashbak say? Ein, now the words can either be read as besar hameis or basar hameis. It means 2 completely different things. Besar, right, the beis mitashva, the shin mitapatach. Ein besar hameis means the flesh of dead. All right, the flesh of a person who passed away. Basar hameis means dead flesh of a living person. So the Havamina was that you read it Besar. Ein Besar hameis margish be'izmel, that the flesh of a corpse doesn't feel if you put a knife through it. In other words, that we are so desensitized. Either, again, there's 2 ways, either to the tzaras, so many tzaras, the tzaras didn't even feel that bad anymore. So therefore the celebration is not that great anymore. That's the negative way of teaching it. The positive way of teaching it is, again, that just like here, the flesh of a corpse doesn't feel when a knife goes through it, that we, like a shaita, but it's even a stronger expression, we don't fathom to begin to appreciate the moededik nissim that God does to every single yid, every single moment. Based on the understanding that he used the expression that just like Bisar HaMeis doesn't feel, no, that it's painful. Every time a maggot or worm eats through the body of a corpse, it is as painful to the corpse as every time you take a pin and you stick it into a flesh of a living person. Many people say it's not a physical pain, but the neshama is in pain that the body is becoming deteriorated. But there is a pain. As it says, Ach besori olav yichav, that he feels in pain of that which is happening to his flesh. The nafshei olav teyavel, and the soul mourns for the decomposition of the body. So therefore the Gemara says, Ema, don't read bisar mitabeis mitashva shin mitapatoch. No, basar, ain't basar hameis, dead flesh of a living person. That ain't basar hamesha b'chai margish be'izmol. Yeah, if a person has on their body some area where the flesh there already is dead, you can cut it off and you won't feel it again. It's an expression of us being very desensitized and learning it in the positive, as we should always learn everything in the positive. It means that we are desensitized to appreciate the amazing miracles that God is performing, and that's the only reason why we don't have a new Megillas Tainus. All right. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Baram, in truth, that that this man should always be remembered for good. Which man? Hananya ben Chizkiah Shemai. If not for him, Nigna Sefer Yecheskel, we indeed would have concealed the book of Yecheskel. Because in Yecheskel there were words that appeared to be contradicting the words of the Torah. Rashi reminds us from Menachas Daf Memhei. Rashi brings down two examples. Number one, there's a pasuk over there that says that the Kohanim are not allowed to eat nevela. And that seems to imply that only Kohanim cannot eat nevela. But what about the Yisraelim? How can that be? No one is allowed to eat nevela. And he understood, like Rashi tells us from the Gemara Menachos, that since we find in the Beis HaMikdash, that milika is a way that through which we offer the karbanei sa'if, and the chata sa'if is taki eaten, and milika outside the temple renders the burden to an nevela. So one might have thought that if you did milika outside the Beis Hamikdash, outside the avodah of karbanos, maybe kahanim are allowed to eat from that nevela. That's why the pasuk has to say, no, kahanim may not eat nevela. Then there's other, Rashi goes and the Gemara speaks about other verses that appear to be contradicting, and he resolved all that. But before he resolved it, they wanted to hide the book. So also, what did he do? They brought for him 300 barrels of oil. That means he wanted to learn by day and by night. And he wanted to learn without anyone interrupting him. And he was not going to leave the attic until he resolved all of these problems. And he went up there. And v'yashav Aliyah v'darshan. And he expounded and he takafan everything. To the point that we allowed Yecheskel to be as it is now in Tanach. And as the Mishnah mentioned, people used to come to visit him. And at one such day, when the Rabu Beishamai al Beisilol, Nimnu v'gamru d'shmayna asar davar. Now, I just want to give a quick Chazara before we begin. Shmoina Asar Davar Gazru, most of which are related to dinim of Tum and Tara. Here are some basic halachas that it's good to review of the laws of Tum and Tara. Number one, sources of Tuma are various, and they have different levels of Tuma. You have a corpse, Jew or non-Jew. Corpse is a avi avois hatuma. Then you have, let's say, a nevela, shmayna shiratzim, a zav, a zava, a nida, etc. They have the status of an av. And the way Tuma normally passes from one to the other is that first you have to define what is halachic contact. It can be physical contact or other halachic contacts that aren't of the physical nature, right? There can be masa, there can be oil in certain scenarios, but whenever there is a halachic contact, normally the tumah from the source, which is conveyed to its recipient, it goes down one notch. So if it began on the level of avi avoisa tumah, like a corpse, then that which had contact, halachic contact with the corpse, will become a av. When the av now has contact with something other than it, then it goes down a notch. Going down a notch is called a rishon. When rishon has contact with something else, not anything else but some things, then that becomes a sheni. And ultimately, tumah can go down theoretically up until a chamishi. The fifth level is very rarely spoken about, but let me just say the following, that you have to divide these four following categories. Adam and kalim are in one group, Adam and kalim, people and utensils. The other group will be oichlin and mashkin, food and drink. Other category. Adam and kalim midoiraisa go down only until a rishon. That means only an av midoiraisa has the koyach to be matame either Adam or kalim. If a rishon touches an Adam or kalim midoiraisa, they will not become tame. However, even midoiraisa, a rishon, if it has contact with either food or drinks, renders the food and drinks into a sheni l'tumah. However, if that food is chulin food, that's the end of the line. Sheni is the end. If sheni touches another chulin food, it won't become a shlishi. But if that sheni touches truma, midoiraisa, the truma becomes impure. However, whenever Chazal use the word impure in the case that I just shared, they don't use the word tamei, they dafka use the word pasul, unfit. What's the difference between unfit or impure? Unfit in the context of truma is that whenever something is at the end of the line, if truma, that's a shlishi, were to touch another food of truma, it will not render it revi'i, because the most truma can become impure is a shlishi. So whenever something is tummy on the level that it cannot convey truma to its type, even though it theoretically it touched it did touch it, but it doesn't convey it, then we call that pasul, not tummy. The word truma is used, for example, if a rishon touches truma, then we say, the truma is tummy. Why do we use the word tummy? Because if this truma, that's a sheni, touches other truma, it will make the other truma into a shlishi. And that shlishi will be called pasul, not tummy. Kachim can become a revi'i. And the same thing, if this is a revi'i, we'll call it pasul. If this is a shlishi by kachim, we'll call that tamei, because kachim that touches another piece of kachim will render it into a revi. And if the kachim will touch the afar meichatos, it will render the meichatos into a chamishi. Okay. Now, we're going to be learning a Mishnah in Zavin. The Mishnah in Zavin tells us about 10 items that are affected with a sheni level of tuma, midirabanan, and these 10 dinim are connected to the shmoina asar davar, as we will explain. So let us start learning our Gemara. Ushmoina asar davar gazru. Says the Gemara, mai ninu shmoina asar davar. Okay, what are the 18 things? So the Gemara begins, the Tanan, quoting a Mishnah in Zavin. Again, the Mishnah in Zavin is speaking about 10 dinim. That's an item, midrabanan is a sheni, and this is connected, as we'll see, to the shmoina asar davar. The Tran, let's go through the 10, that elu poislan asatruma, the following 10, midrabanan become a sheni, and therefore, if we wouldn't have made this takana, if they're not a sheni, and if it touches truma, the truma is good to go. But now that we rendered them into a sheni, if they have halachic contact with truma, what will they do to the truma? You can say they'll make it tummy. But again, since truma that becomes tamei from a sheni becomes a shlishi, and truma cannot convey its truma to another truma on the level of revi'i, so therefore we don't use the word tamei, we use the word pasul. That what? Elohein poislen esa truma. Number one, ha'oichel rishon. If a person eats foods that are on the level of a rishon, midoiraisa, like we mentioned in the intro, a rishon can only be metama oichlin or mashkin. A rishon cannot be metama adam nor kalim. Midrabanan, if a person eats foods that are tummy on the level of a rishon, it's not any amount, but it's a certain fixed amount or more. Midrabanan, the eater becomes a sheni. That's number one. Number two, v'ha'oichel sheni. It's number two. it's even a bigger chiddush. If a person eats food that's tummy on the level of sheni, and again, normally what's the rule? When you eat food, when you have contact with tuma, you become tummy on a one notch lower. Here, the person is eating sheni, there's no shlishi by a person. Still, the Chazal made a takana that the eater becomes a sheni as well. Okay, now, just to know that there are many rules, and there's always every now and then an exception, but these are the rules. Number 3, v'hashoyse mashkin tameim. Another takon of the Chachamim. If you have mashkin is a rishon. We're going to actually learn that midrabanan, all liquids, if they became tamei, they automatically become a rishon. That means even though they became tamei from a rishon, so they should go down to a sheni. Mashkin by default has a din of a rishon. And again, mashkin, a rishon, cannot be metama adam. There is an exception. There is the secretions of a zav itself has the status of an av. If the spittle of a zav touches a person, the person will become a rishon midoiraisa. We're not speaking about that. We're speaking about normative mashkin, which normally are tummy on the level of a rishon. A rishon cannot be metama adam. Midrabanan, if he drinks a certain amount, he becomes a sheni. Number 4, this is very important. Says Rashi, 5 lines from the bottom, that if a person that was already tummy went to the mikveh, and there is a rule midoiraisa that even though you went to the mikvah, you don't have full tahara until it becomes night, right? Remember the first Mishnah in Berachos, and that's called, you need herev shemesh, it has to become dark, and after the mikvah until it becomes dark, you are called a tful yoim. So they made a takana that if such a tful yoim, that means he went to the mikvah, or she went to the mikvah, but they now went into a bath, they went into waters that were gathered, that renders them rabbinically into a sheni. Number 5, another din. And number 5 is not on a person who was previously tamei. A person who is not tamei at all, a tar. That v'tar shenaflu al reisha v'ruba shleisha lug and mayim she'uvim. That a tar person who had 3 lug, that's between 1 or 2 quarts of water, thrown on him, equivalent today to a person taking a shower. We'll speak all about this more, every single one on Daf Yudalad, the God willing, the next Daf. Rabbinically, the person becomes a sheni. And therefore, again, a sheni cannot make chulin into a shlishi. But if that person were to touch truma, it passes the truma. Number 6, they made a takana that a sefer, Rashi says, sefer, 3 lines from the bottom, referring to any sefer of Tanach. And it's good to know that there's a Mishnah in Yodayim. It doesn't have to be an entire sefer, but any sefer from Tanach that has written in it at least 85 letters, the amount of letters that we have in the smallest sefer in the Torah. What's the smallest sefer in the Torah? So normally we refer to the Torah as Chamishe Chumshei Torah. But really we already learned together that's really a machlokes. Many view the Torah as being comprised of 7 Sfarim. What are the 7 Sfarim? Bereshis, Shmois, Vayikra, the way we have it. Bamidbar, all the way in middle of Parshas Baha'aloischa, you have the Parsha with the 2 opposite nuns of Vayihi b'Nasaya Ha'aring. 2 psukim, comprised of 85 letters. Really, that is viewed as a sefer for itself. So Bereshis, Shmois, Vayikra is 3. Then you have Bamidbar until Vayihi b'Nasaya Ha'aring. That's 4. Vayihi b'Nasaya Ha'aring is 5. The Bamidbar from after Vayihi ben Asaya until the end of Bamidbar is 6, and Devarim is 7. And Laha'ir, not negea to here, that's Takawai, the Sefer of Tehillim, that mirrors on so many different levels. The Chamishe Chumshei Torah is also divided both into the 5 Sfarim, right? When we read Tehillim every Shabbos Mevarchim, the Yiratzin is after Sefer Rishon, Sefer Sheni, Keneged, Bereshis, Keneged. And as you look inside your Tehillim, aside of the Chalukah that we do for Chitas, but the Sefer of Tehillim is also divided into the days of the week. It's divided into 7 divisions. That it should also mirror the Chamishe Chumshei Torah that according to many are really not Chamisha, but they are the 7. Anyways, if you have any part of Tanakh that it was written down 85 letters or more, so it's equal the smallest sefer in the Chumash, the din is that it's midrabanan, that sefer itself has a din of a sheni. Wow. We'll see again why they made these takanas. Number 7, Vaha Yodayim, unwashed hands. Right? Before Netilas Yodayim, midrabanan, you don't know what they touched. they have a stam yodayim arshniyos. Number 8, v'hatful yoim, or tful yoim, like we just mentioned, until nightfall, right? They cannot be metama chulin. We're going to learn in Chagiga, a tful yoim cannot even be matama meiser sheni, but if he touches truma, he's matama the truma, because he has a din of a sheni, so he can make a shlishi. We're going to see later in the Gemara, tful yoim is really a din toira, but we'll see there's a certain rabbinic halacha on a tful yoim, and the final two, 9 and 10, v'ha'oichlin v'ha'kelim shenitmu b'mashkin, that if liquids touched oichlin, that will have to leave for the next year. Liquids touching oichlin, if the liquid is a rishon, then the oichel is a sheni midoiraisa. What's the rabbanan? At least clear that the rabbanan is that if liquids, which is a sheni, touches kelim, just like we mentioned, that midoiraisa, midin toira, ein mashkin, a rishon cannot render an adam a sheni, a rishon cannot render kelim into a sheni. Adam and keli are in the same group. But again, midrabanan, mashkin that touch kalim make the kalim into a sheni, and therefore they have the koyach to pasul truma. These are the 10 of Yudayim, and God willing, we're going to take off next year. We're going to go through these 10 to explain exactly what they are referring to, and explain why the Chachamim indeed made such a takana to be continued.